I've always been the kind of guy who loses everything. Seriously. Wallet, keys, vape, dignity, you name it. I've misplaced it. My friends joke that I have object permanence issues, like a toddler. So, when my old iPhone 8, the one I kept purely as a glorified iPod for gym music, went missing inside my own house, I didn't exactly call the FBI. I figured it was just classic me. I probably left it on top of the fridge, or it slid between the couch cushions, or maybe I accidentally threw it in the laundry hamper. It wasn't my main phone, so I didn't panic. I just shrugged, grabbed a beer, and figured it would turn up eventually. That was mistake number one. Let me set the scene for you. About 6 months ago, I moved into this duplex on the edge of town. It wasn't the Ritz, but the rent was suspiciously cheap for how much space I got. It was an older building, probably from the 72nds, with wood paneling that smelled like stale cigarettes and lemon pledge. I had the bottom floor. The top floor was currently vacant, supposedly undergoing renovations by the landlord. For a bachelor pad, it was decent. But honestly, the vibe was always a little off. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and feel like you just interrupted a conversation? Like the air is still vibrating. That's what my living room felt like, especially at night. The weird stuff started small. Subtle things that I gaslit myself into ignoring. It started with the food. I'd buy a block of cheddar cheese, eat maybe a quarter of it, and wake up 2 days later to find it gone. Or I'd find the milk left on the counter, lukewarm, when I knew for a fact I was OCD about putting perishables away. I told myself I was just being a slob. Maybe I made a grilled cheese when I was drunk and forgot. I'd tell myself. Or maybe the fridge door didn't close all the way. Then came the smells. Sometimes, around 3 a.m., when I was grinding ranked matches on Overwatch in the living room, I'd catch a whiff of something nasty. Not like sewage, but like unwashed body, stale sweat and onions. It would drift past me, hang in the air for 10 seconds, and then vanish. I blamed the vents. Old house, old pipes, maybe a dead rat in the wall. I bought a bunch of those plug-in air fresheners, blasted the place with tropical breeze, and moved on. But the night everything changed, the night I realized how stupid I'd been, was a Tuesday. I was having a rough week at work. My boss was on my case. My car was making a weird noise, and I just wanted to disconnect. I ordered Thai food, cracked open a cold one, and flopped onto the couch to watch a movie. I realized I wanted to connect my Bluetooth speaker for better sound. But classic me, my main phone was dead, charging in the bedroom. Then I remembered the old iPhone 8, the missing one. I hadn't seen it in about a week. I figured, okay, I'm bored. Let's actually find this thing. I grabbed my main phone from the charger and decided to call the old number. The iPhone 8 still had a SIM card in it because I was too lazy to cancel the cheap plan I had for it. I sat on the couch, surrounded by pad thai containers, and dialed. The line rang. I walked around the living room, listening intently for a vibration or a marimba ringtone muffled under a pile of laundry. Nothing. I walked into the kitchen. Nothing. I checked the bathroom. Silence. Maybe the battery is dead, I thought. But just as I was about to hang up, the ringing stopped. The timer on my main phone screen started counting up. 0, 1, 0, 2. Someone had picked up. My stomach dropped. I stood there in the hallway, freezing. My first thought was absurd. Did a ghost answer my phone? My second thought was more rational, but still confusing. Did I leave it in my car? Did someone steal it out of my glove box and answer it? Hello? I said, into the phone. Silence on the other end. Hello? Is anyone there? Look, if you found this phone, it's a piece of junk. You can keep it. Just tell me where you are. Still silence. but not dead silence. I pressed the phone harder against my ear. I could hear it, ambient noise. It sounded like a room. I could hear the faint hum of an HVAC system. I could hear a slight rustling, like fabric rubbing against fabric. And then I heard a sound that made my blood run cold. In my left ear, the phone, I heard a faint metallic clank. In my right ear, the real world, coming from the ceiling above me, I heard the exact same metallic clank. I stood paralyzed. The sound had come from the central air vent directly above the hallway. I slowly lowered the phone from my ear, put it on speaker, and held it out like a Geiger counter. I cleared my throat. Ahem. From the ceiling vent, I heard a muffled, barely audible echo of a movement. And from the speakerphone in my hand, I heard a sharp intake of breath. The person wasn't stealing my car. They weren't across town. They were holding my missing phone, and they were sitting inside the crawl space between my ceiling and the vacant unit upstairs. I stared up at the vent. It was one of those old, metal grate ones, screwed into the drywall. It looked undisturbed, but the sound, the audio connection proved they were right there. I started to shake, like visibly shake. The realization hit me like a truck. The missing cheese, the smell, the lukewarm milk. I wasn't living alone. I had a roommate who lived in the ceiling. Now, here is where I probably should have run out the front door and called the cops. But fear makes you do stupid things. I wanted to be 100% sure before I looked like a crazy person. I decided to run a test. A terrifying test. I walked quietly back into the living room, leaving the hallway. I kept the call active on speaker. I turned on the TV. I put on a news channel. I turned the volume up to about 50%. Breaking news tonight. A storm front moving in from the west. The TV blared. I stared at my phone screen. About half a second later, through the phone speaker, I heard a tinny, muffled version of the news anchor's voice. Storm front moving in from the west. It was echoing down through the vent, being picked up by the microphone of the missing phone upstairs, and broadcast back to me. There was no doubt anymore. The intruder was directly above the living room now, following me. I muted the TV. "I know you're up there," I said. I tried to sound angry, but my voice came out as a terrified squeak. From the phone speaker, a voice finally responded. It wasn't a growl. It wasn't a threat. It was worse. It was a soft, confused, raspy whisper, like someone who hadn't used their vocal cords in days. "You have good snacks, David." He knew my name. That was the breaking point. The adrenaline finally kicked my brain into flight mode. I didn't grab my shoes. I didn't grab my keys. I ran for the front door. But as I grabbed the handle, I heard a massive crash from the hallway. The vent grate I had been staring at earlier had been kicked out. It clattered onto the floor. I looked back, stupid. I know, and I saw a pair of dirty, bare legs dangling out of the ceiling. Then, a torso. A man dropped to the floor of my hallway. He looked wrong. He was skinny, dangerously skinny, like skin stretched over bone. He was wearing one of my hoodies, a gray college hoodie I thought I had lost months ago. His hair was matted and long, and his face was covered in soot and dust. But the worst part was that he was holding my old iPhone, 8 inches, one hand, and a half-eaten block of my cheddar cheese in the other. He stood up, blocking the hallway that led to the bedrooms. He wasn't rushing me. He just stood there, swaying slightly, blinking in the light of the living room. He smiled. His teeth were yellow and gray. "Don't leave," he rasped, raising the phone to his mouth like a walkie-talkie. We were watching the movie. I didn't wait to hear the rest. I ripped the front door open and sprinted barefoot into the street. It was raining. The pavement was freezing. But I didn't stop running until I reached the gas station 3 blocks away. I burst inside, terrifying the poor clerk, and screamed at him to call 911. I sat on the floor of that gas station, shivering, watching the door, expecting the skinny man in my hoodie to come walking out of the rain. When the cops arrived, I gave them the keys and told them everything. They went in with guns drawn. Here's the part that keeps me up at night. They found him. He hadn't even tried to run. They found him sitting on my couch, finishing the pad thai I had ordered, watching the rest of the movie. It turned out he wasn't just some random homeless guy. He was a guy named Arthur who had been reported missing by his family 2 years ago. He had severe mental health issues and a history of phrogging, living in other people's homes without them knowing. The police found his nest in the crawl space. He had created a little living area up there. He had stolen my pillows. He had a stack of my magazines. He had bottles of his own urine lined up so he wouldn't have to come down to use the toilet often. But the thing that messed me up the most was what they found taped to the inside of the air vent, the one directly above my couch, where I sat every single night. He had taped my missing iPhone 8 to the vent grate, facing down. He had been using the camera. He had hours and hours of footage of me sleeping, me eating, me watching TV, me scratching my nose. He wasn't just living with me. He was documenting our life together. I moved out the next day, broke the lease, lost my deposit, didn't care. I moved back in with my parents for a month, just so I could sleep in a room with people I knew. I'm in a new apartment now, a high-rise, concrete ceilings, no attic, no crawl space. But even now, I have this weird tic. Every time I lose something, a remote, a sock, a set of keys, I don't just look for it. I listen. I stop everything, hold my breath, and just listen. Because I'm terrified that one day, I'll hear the sound of someone chewing, or breathing, or shifting their weight, coming from inside the walls. And if I ever lose a phone again, I'm not calling it. I'm just going to buy a new one. Because there are some calls you really, really don't want to be answered.